Dear Irene, dear Astrid, dear ladies, it's fascinating to address a room like this. I'm delighted to be here today, and on behalf of Minister Katharina Reiche, who would have been equally happy to attend this meeting if her schedule had allowed it, I would like to welcome you all to Berlin here today. It's a great inspiration to see so many talented and experienced women from all parts of the world ready to foster economic and social change for the better. I therefore want to use this opportunity to give you some insights with respect to the economic policy agenda of the new government, which aims to bring about a major change in the business environment. But let me start out by just making a few remarks about Germany's role in Europe and Germany's role in the global economy. There are currently slightly more than 83 million people here in Germany and a GDP of around 4.3 trillion euros, which makes Germany the third largest economy globally and the biggest economy within the European Union. And the European Union still represents the second largest economic zone in the world, with a share in global GDP of around 17%. And a key element of the European Union is its single market, with more than 440 million customers, and the single market permits people in Sweden, for instance, to buy products and services from Italy without any tariffs or other major obstacle to trade. There's also free movement of capital and of citizens seeking work across the Union. Besides, Germany and the European Union are characterized by the respect for the rule of law, an impartial public administration, a highly skilled workforce, and relatively low levels of income inequality. Thus, Germany and the European Union are great places to expand business activities. There is a strong industrial base, cooperative industrial relations, low inflation rates, a decentralized federal structure, both here within Germany but also in the European Union, and there are many hidden champions, companies that are small and medium-sized, but they are top 3 in their respective market segment globally. Nevertheless, we have to do some work to improve competitiveness of the German and the European economy. Despite some fluctuations in activity due to major shocks in recent years, the German economy, as Astrid has said, has stagnated. In fact, it has broadly stagnated since 2020 already. This is in part down to major economic shocks, first the pandemic and then the Russian war against Ukraine. Overall, we were able to manage these shocks quite well and to stabilize the economy quickly. We therefore were able to prevent the feared economic collapse, especially after Russia switched off the gas supplies. And this was done with very comprehensive government support measures. But these shocks have also exposed the structural weakness of our economic model that has been concealed by the very strong track record as a winner in globalization over the last decade. Fortunately, there already have been some reforms addressing these well-known structural challenges, and contrary to the general perception, those reforms are already showing some effect. So just to mention a few, efforts in the energy sector are unleashing the potential for renewable energy and thus diversifying our energy supply. We have an overhauled immigration law that helps us to attract skilled immigration. We have cut back red tape, and we have simplified approval processes, which, amongst other things, has allowed us to do a very fast construction of the new LNG terminals that are servicing the German economy. But yet, we had last year a collapse of the coalition that was governing at the time, the so-called traffic light coalition, which gets its name from the three parties and their main colors, red, yellow, and green. And that, unfortunately, that collapse prevented the implementation of an already agreed comprehensive reform agenda, the so-called growth initiatives, which were a set of structural reforms, and those couldn't be implemented because the government broke up. And that government breakup, together with a lively fiscal policy debate, created some considerable uncertainty, which hampered public and private investment. But 6 months later, in my view, Germany is in a much more favorable position already. As you might be aware, the previous parliament passed a fiscal package that introduced a major change to our debt rules, which are enshrined in the German constitution. So the so-called debt brake had previously put some serious constraints on the government's ability to invest in infrastructure, digitalization, the transformation of the energy sector. The fiscal package consists of three main components. The first one is an exemption in defense expenditures exceeding 1% of GDP. The second is to allow the regional states also some borrowing leeway, which previously wasn't there. And then the third and important part is a special fund for infrastructure and climate action that will foresee investments of up to 500 billion euros over the next 12 years. Together, this package creates ample fiscal space, but the fiscal space, the fiscal spending needs to be accompanied by structural reforms in order to fully modernize the country and set it on the path for growth. So this is the backdrop against which the new federal government took office about 2 months ago. And now there is really a great opportunity to lay new foundations for a strong economy and a new growth cycle. So let me briefly talk about 3 phases in which these policy initiatives are going to unfold. The first and foremost aim is to restore confidence. And the fiscal package that I mentioned already presents a major opportunity to resolve the massive investment backlog, both in the public as well as the private sector. There are promising signs of a swift change in the mood amongst investors, be it financial investors, be it people who are interested in investing directly either in greenfield or brownfield projects. And this positive momentum is now bolstered by the Coalition Program for Immediate Action, which is essentially its 100-day program. It's here, we're even more ambitious, it's actually a 70-day program, and the major action needs to be taken before the summer recess of Parliament. So amongst other things, it consists of a substantial improvement of the taxation for corporate investment through accelerated depreciation allowances. These will be followed by a gradual reduction in the corporate tax rate from the current 15% down to 10% starting in 2028, which basically means that once the investment have been taken and they're starting to generate profits, the taxes will be lower by the time this happens. At the same time, the Program for Immediate Action also has a bill that makes sure that the special infrastructure fund that I mentioned can start as soon as possible. And the government will stabilize the electricity tax reductions for manufacturing, agriculture and forestry, and also plans to cut grid fees and levies on electricity, thus addressing the issue of the high energy costs within Germany. Lower electricity costs will strengthen companies' competitiveness and accelerate also the electrification necessary for decarbonizing the economy. So these and other measures are already visibly contributing to reduce the level of political uncertainty in Germany. And that's, of course, important for private sector spending, investment, but also consumer spending to pick up. So to restore confidence is the major policy priority in the coming months. Then, starting in September, we have a second phase, which will start to focus on the structural reforms also agreed in the coalition agreement as quickly and effectively as possible, which is important because these reforms need to complement the government spending. So these reforms would include things such as reducing red tape further, accelerating planning and approval procedures. It comprises rebalancing reporting duties on sustainability, foregoing gold plating of EU regulations, as well as introducing regulatory sandboxes where you can sort of do a practical tests of new ideas before they're actually subject to regulation. Measures also include important measures to increase labor supply by increasing incentives to work, especially for older workers, but also for women. The modernization agenda for the state and an enhanced efficiency within the public sector. We also will embark on market-based reforms to reduce inefficiencies in the energy system. And so just to give you a taste of a number of the major measures that were agreed in the comprehensive coalition agreement. But there is also a third phase, and now I'm speaking as an economist to you that would suggest that there is need to go even beyond the what has been agreed in the coalition agreement. So to secure a long economic upswing, this third phase, the additional reforms, are crucial. And there are some areas where they are particularly needed, which is and difficult to do, which is the reform of the social security system, especially the pension side, but also healthcare. The coalition agreement doesn't provide detailed specifications of how these reforms need to be done. It is clear that they need to be done, but the details still need to be hammered out. And that's sort of an ambitious plan for the third phase. But Germany needs to stabilize social security contributions because otherwise labor costs increase further, and so would the tax wedge, which basically means that you're reducing both incentives to hire, but also to work for at the same time. We also need to simplify the transfer system that we have for social security, for social transfers, to increase its transparency and to reduce the burdens of administering it, both for the public sector and for the citizens. So, and last but not least, we also need to continue to improve the quality of the education system, especially given the high number of young adults that we have that have no professional qualification. So that's also something that needs to be looked at in the longer term. So just to give you a quick taste of how the policy will be unfolding in this parliament. In addition, I should mention the ramp up in defense spending that I also mentioned at the outset. That's obviously key as well, and it needs to be designed in a smart way in terms of the procurement and in terms of using innovative technology, including enough startups. And so those I haven't mentioned much, but we can certainly get to this and other things in the discussion. Thank you very much.